The Pro Bowl was yesterday? Anyone else not have a clue? Like, I saw part of the games on Friday or something, the precision passing and whatnot. After that, it completely left my mind. They really need to bring it back to what it was, because this flag football thing is just literally an afterthought. Anyway, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and welcome to every NFL team's most underrated player. This is a video I did after last season. You guys seem to really like it, so why don't we do it again? Couple of plugs as always, though. Don't forget to use code WyattzWorld on G Fuel or Prize Picks. You can save yourself a discount on any G Fuel products or match up to $100 of your first deposit. And now is the perfect time to sign up, too, if you've been considering it, because for the Super Bowl, they're doing a Patrick Mahomes free square. All he needs is 1 yard for his entry to win. It's simple. But always play responsibly, and let's get into every team's most underrated player. Okay, so if you guys happen to miss last week's video where I graded every first round rookie from last season, I am gonna do this video in the same exact format, and what that was by direction. We went NFC North, AFC North, NFC East, AFC East, NFC West, AFC West, and you guys know how it ends. So now that everybody knows what's going on, we can begin, and this time we will start with the NFC South. So first team we're gonna do is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and their most underrated player to me is the same guy that's been the most underrated player there for a very long time, and that is Chris Godwin. He's always been a backup to Mike Evans, but he's always been there when the teams needed him. Aside from the Hail Mary he could have caught to beat Buffalo, like, he is literally there every time they need an emergency first down, an emergency catch. He might only had 2 touchdowns on the year, but he had over 1,000 yards and 83 receptions, once again as a number 2. I give him his flowers. Chris Godwin has always been a hardworking, underrated player. Next team we got is the Falcons, and it's a tie between Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I can't decide. Both of them are equally as underrated. Kyle Pitts will come down with any ball that's in his range. The only issue is he hasn't had a quarterback who can throw a ball within 10 feet of him. And Drake London we see flashes of all the time. You don't catch 10 passes in a game for 172 yards if you're not elite. These guys get Russell Wilson. Hell, if they get Gardner Minshew, they are going to blow up. That brings us to the New Orleans Saints, and it is Rashid Shaheed to me. Hope I said his name right. I always mix it up. But I've talked about this guy for 2 years now, man. He is allergic to making a normal catch. I swear, anytime he touches the ball, he's running down the field for like 40 yards. It's just too bad that half the time he's open, Derek Carr just looks away. And ending with the Panthers now, we've got Derek Brown. I understand he might not be underrated to some people, but to me he is, because when you hear about that defense, you still just hear Brian Burns and J.C. Horn. Even though J.C. missed most of the year, you don't hear about Derek Brown, who actually made the Pro Bowl this year as well. Or at least I don't hear about him. He's a defensive tackle, played every game, had an interception, had 2 sacks, had over 50 solo tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, 15 hits on the quarterback. I just feel like he should be looked at as a little bit more of a leader on the team. All right, now we will go to the AFC South. So starting off with the Jacksonville Jaguars, we got the cornerback Darius Williams. This guy won a Super Bowl with the Rams, and I don't think he's been talked about since. Played in every game this year, had 4 picks, 19 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 tackles for a loss. That's pretty fucking good. Now moving on to the Colts, we have Zaire Franklin, and I think he was actually their midseason MVP for me too. This guy broke 100 tackles for the 2nd year in a row. He also forced a couple fumbles and I think had 1 or 2 sacks, but didn't even get a Pro Bowl because fuck him. Now we got the Texans. To me, their most underrated player is Devin Singletary. We saw the games when he gets a lot of carries, man. This guy is capable of running for 150 yards. Also a good pass catcher. I know that because I watched him in Buffalo. And I know I just talked about him, and it doesn't really help his case for this year, but if you look at his career as a whole, he might be the most consistent player in the history of the fucking league. He's the Chris Davis of the NFL. And ending, we got the Titans, their most underrated player. By the way, there's a lot on defense that I wanted to pick. I also wanted to say Jeffrey Simmons because I have a weird infatuation with him. But no, it's none of them. The most underrated player is Tajay Spears, the man from the greatest college ever. I actually do think he is quite underrated, and I think the Titans are in good hands with him if they choose to roll with him as a running back 1, though. 100 carries, 453 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 50 receptions. Add another 385 yards and a touchdown on with those. Like, this guy was behind Derrick Henry the whole year. He's a dog. And he went to Tulane. All right, so now we're going to go to the NFC West, and we're going to start with the Seahawks. I think their most underrated player is Boy Mafe, and if I butchered that name, it's embarrassing because he went to the University of Minnesota. Another guy I personally don't hear a lot about, yet he had a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, 9 sacks, 35 tackles, and 16 hits on the quarterback. Also, his snap count doubled from last year too, so I mean, his production is showing to the front office clearly. Next, we've got the Rams. I want to say their entire defense that they drafted in 2023, but specifically I'll give it to Byron Young. 25 years old, went in the 3rd round of last year's draft, started 16 games, forced 2 fumbles, recovered 1 of them, had 8 sacks, 42 tackles, and 19 hits on the quarterback. There are first rounders who did less. Now we move on to the Cardinals. I'm giving it to Trey McBride. I've been a fan of his since about the mid-season, dude. He is incredible. 81 receptions, 825 yards, 3 touchdowns on the Arizona Cardinals. This guy's 6'4", 250 pounds of American muscle playmaking ability. And ending, we got the 49ers, and you can't really underrate anybody on that team. I mean, it's really hard to. So Kyle Juszczyk, because they wouldn't be where they are without you. All right, now on to the AFC West, and starting with the Broncos, I asked my friend who is a Bronco fan, and he said, well, initially he said ick, and then Marvin Mims or Jaquan McMillan, and then ended by saying, it's not good. And I mean, looking into it, it does look like Jaquan McMillan did have a pretty good year. 2 interceptions, 5 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumbles recovered, couple quarterback hits. It's productive. I'm just concerned that the guy is only 5'10". That brings us to the Chiefs. If you're asking me, their most underrated player is Rashee Rice, and the reason I'm saying that is because I know people know he's good, but I don't think they know how good. I think this guy has a chance to be kind of like a Tyreek. I think it's gonna be a dynasty all over again with the addition of him there. Crazy fast, crazy elusive, he's got great hands, he's got great wheels. I think the only thing that he doesn't have that Tyreek does is that shell of outer muscle, because Tyreek looks like a fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, man. Rashee doesn't quite have that. And now we got the Raiders, and I wanted to give it to Trayvon Moehrig, but I'm still going to give it to Jacoby Myers because he had another excellent year. Despite being behind Davante Adams, despite having a horrible head coach for half the year, despite alternating quarterbacks, 71 receptions, 800 yards, and 8 touchdowns, that is more than respectable. And now we'll be ending with the Chargers, and I have to give it to Easton Stick. Dude, I didn't think he could play, and he can play. He can go. Not sure I'd want him as a starter, but I wouldn't mind having him as a backup at all. The guy sat on a bench and rotted for like 2.5 years. Then he came off, threw up 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 1,100 yards. I think he had a 63 or 64 completion percentage, which again, if you're rotting on the bench, I wouldn't expect you to be the most accurate person when you come into a live game, but this guy can play. And now we will move on to the East and start with the NFC East. So for the Cowboys, my most underrated player, get ready for this one, Dak Prescott. Because people still argue that he's not good. People will try and argue that he is actually bad. For no reason. He led the league in touchdown passes. I think he had the highest completion percentage. And if I can't say Dak, I'll say J-Ron Curse, but Dak is my most underrated player on that team. It's fucking crazy as to how people just hate him. And up next, we got the Eagles, and this might get some head scratches, but Devontae Smith is still incredibly underrated to me. I fear he's taking the Chris Godwin route for his career, and I really hope he doesn't. If this guy wasn't constantly competing with A.J. Brown, like, do you understand how fucking good he would be? Fast as lightning, this year he had 81 receptions, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Go somewhere where you can be a number 1 when you get a chance, dude, because I gotta see it. And that'll bring us to the Giants. I just talked about this guy when I was grading rookies, but Deonte Banks. This guy was a rookie corner this year, and he had an incredible season, and I don't think I've heard him talked about more than maybe 3 times. 2 interceptions, 11 pass deflections, like 50 tackles as a rookie on the Giants? This guy should be plastered over every inch of New York. And that'll bring us to the Commanders, and I'm giving it to Ben St. Juste, another U of M boy. He's a corner who started 16 games this year with 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles, 17 pass deflections, 1 sack, 52 tackles, and only allowed a 63% completion percentage off of 106 targets. Dog. Now we're going to move on to the AFC East and start with the Buffalo Bills. Their most underrated player is Khalil Shakir. That guy saved our asses so many times and played a key factor in probably 4 of our much needed wins this season. And people are still talking about Gabe Davis. Bro, he's gone. Focus on what matters, and that is Khalil Shakir. Dolphins, their most underrated player is Chase Claypool. A matter of fact, I think he is so damn underrated that they should probably just get rid of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle because they don't need him. Patriots, Demario Douglas. I had no one else to say. I wanted to say Kendrick Bourne here, but I guess Demario Douglas looks pretty good. Like I said, I think I could paint a wall and watch it dry, and I would find that more entertaining than any aspect about the Patriots. And ending with the Jets, we have Tyler Conklin. He was actually a Viking at one point. He's been on the Jets for a couple years now, but he's actually done decent there, despite them having probably the most broken quarterback situation in the history of history. Might not have had any touchdowns this year, but he had 60 receptions for 600 receiving yards. Go look at anybody else not named Garrett Wilson, because it's a lot worse than that. And now ending, we got the Norths, and I'm gonna have to expedite these a little bit, as you could probably tell with the last division, because it's getting really late, and I gotta get this video done today, so we're gonna get it going. So anyway, NFC North, the Vikings, their most underrated player to me is Ivan Pace. Undrafted linebacker, had a forced fumble and interception, 2.5 sacks, 63 tackles, and 9 hits on the quarterback. And if I couldn't say Ivan Pace, I would say Ty Chandler. Now we got the Lions. I'm giving it to Josh Reynolds. I've talked about him recently too, but people gotta stop treating him like he's just a guy. And I know he had a bad drop in the postseason, but look past that one bad drop and at all the good things he did for you guys this year, he was basically your version of Khalil Shakir. Now we got the Packers, and you'd think I'm giving it to Romeo Doubs, but no, it actually goes to Jaden Reed, because I was unaware that Jaden Reed actually outperformed Romeo Doubs. Rookie with the rookie quarterback comes down with 64 receptions for 793 yards and 8 touchdowns. Also ran for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, who the fuck is this guy, Debo? And ending with the Bears, I wanted to say Cole Kmet, but I gotta give it to TJ Edwards. The 5th-year linebacker who was on Philly for the first 4 came to Chicago. 3 picks, a forced fumble, 7 pass deflections, 2.5 sacks, 91 tackles, and 8 hits on the quarterback. He didn't even make a Pro Bowl. And now ending, we got the AFC North. So the Bengals, I'm giving it to linebacker Logan Wilson. 17 games started out of this guy, 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, a sack, 78 solo tackles. One of the guys that sits behind the scenes and takes the back road to Trey Hendrickson and everyone else who gets all the glory, but he does equally just as much. I mean, not as much as Trey, but majority of the defense. Now we got the Browns, and I'm gonna butcher the hell out of this name, but it goes to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Another linebacker here who came down with 2 interceptions on the season. Forced a fumble, had 70 tackles, 20 tackles for a loss. And even though he did make the Pro Bowl playing on a defense alongside Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, it's pretty hard to get your name out there and recognized. Not that he isn't, but I think he's mad underrated. Now we got Baltimore. I'm giving it to Isaiah Likely. Only had 411 yards and 5 touchdowns, but I saw him make some incredible catches, and it's about the point that without Mark Andrews, they need him to step up, and he always does. He's only 23 years old too. I think he's gonna be there after Mark for a considerable amount of time. And ending, we got the Steelers. This is another Browns situation. I'm giving it to Alex Highsmith, who is a great player, but playing alongside guys like Minka, TJ, Hayward, you are never given the attention you deserve. This guy started 17 games, had 2 picks. One of them was a pick 6, 7 sacks, 34 tackles, 8 for a loss, and 18 hits on the quarterback. Sounds more so just like a mini TJ to me. Alex Highsmith, underrated. And that is also going to be all I got for today, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said earlier, it's getting late. This video is probably going to come out later than its usual time, but I still hope you guys enjoy it. Also, show any support you guys can. You know I appreciate it. Turn the bell on. I try to post every single day. But for now, I'm going to get this edited so you guys can watch it at some point today. Take care, and as always, I will see you in the next video.